Welcome to the Molten Fantasy Sports Podcast. I'm the host, the Supercoach Brain, joined by my co-host, the Supercoach Mattrix. Matty, how you going, mate?
Yeah, fantastic. Just finished day of work and excited to talk about Supercoach.
And on the tins. Love it.
On the tins, mate, definitely.
Mate, considering this is episode 1, we should probably introduce ourselves, give everybody a little bit of a rundown of our backgrounds. I might throw it over to you first. What's your, history when it comes to fantasy sport?
Would probably consider myself a bit of an expert in NBA. I've started getting involved in Supercoach with you probably for the last couple years. Just keep a finger on the pulse. I am a Broncos season ticket holder and try to go to every game I can. Obviously up in Queensland, going to the Broncos games, but apart from that, just try and watch what we can watch on KO and running with it.
Love it. Mate, myself, I'm in Sydney. I'm a West Tigers supporter. It's been a rough few years. Thank you. It's been a rough few years, but it's kind of given me a chance to get into Supercoach a little bit more and find some love for the game through that format rather than watching the Tigers lose every week, unfortunately. But I feel pretty good about this year. So let's hope that things improve. It can't really get any worse, can it?
Can't get much worse, but they look good. There's a few Smokies in there.
Yeah,
I'm excited to watch a West Tigers game.
Yeah.
But probably the first time ever, so there you go.
Might be talking about a few of them today. We'll see how we go. Supercoach background or fantasy sport background for me, played nearly everything I can. I've had a 17th overall finish in NRL fantasy. It was a few years ago now, but a couple of top 1,000 finishes in Supercoach, 330th last season overall, and currently 700th in BBL Supercoach. So hopefully we can go one better this year and both crack that top 1K or maybe even top 100 this year. We'll see how we go.
Yeah. How do you think you're going in head-to-head in BBL this year?
Yeah, not that great. I unfortunately always have a focus on overall rank. Sometimes I don't even think too much about the matchup that I've got going on in cash comps and things like that. And it shows with my results, unfortunately.
I'm just stirring you up because I beat you last week and
you did.
Don't
you
often get a leg over in Supercoach, so I'm going to take
it. Straight into the bye. Love it, mate. I just needed an extra game to get the boys in form, that's all.
Yeah, that's good. You're looking for them, so.
Yeah, that's it, mate. So, obviously over the last probably 4 to 6 weeks, we've been head first into the team picker that Supercoach have released. So I guess this episode is centered around that, talking around our teams that we've got so far in the team picker. We've got a few different ideas around positions, which is great. We'll be up for some good chat there and talk everybody through our thoughts around certain players, why we have gone with them, why we've avoided some, and we'll go through each position, mate. So do you want to kick us off? We'll start with hookers and work our way down. Who have you got in the hookers positions at the moment?
Yeah, well, pretty excited to talk about Brandon Smith coming from the Storm. Like, we see what Nico goes once he left the Storm and went to another team. Mm-hmm. Instead of being the backup to the best player in the game, he's the number one option at the Roosters, which, in my opinion, is the pick to win the comp.
Yep, I agree with that. I'm on the Roosters to win the comp this year, I think. Good old Better. When they drop those $101 odds for any team to win, I back the Roosters. So
I'm actually with you. Thanks for the shout out to Better. So
yep, that's it. Maybe we'll hit some sponsorships up a bit later.
I think anyone, once they leave the Storm, shit's gold. And Brandon Smith being at the Roosters, having everyone running off him instead of being, the guy that plays 30 minutes and is great to have around Origin time, is probably going to get the opportunity to play 55 to hopefully 65. I don't think I'm too hopeful in hoping that he plays that many minutes, especially with Connor Watson getting injured. I think that was the only threat to maybe take 20, 25, 30 minutes off him.
Yeah, I'm big on Smithy as well. I think the big block of cheese is going to have a big year. And like you said, you've covered it all. Comes from the Storm, whereas back up to Harry Grant and then and Cameron Smith. It's a pretty hard gig being behind those two guys. But now he's got his opportunity over at a really strong team that is starting to come together and are going to have a pretty good season. So, and I think the big draw card for me with the cheese is the fact that he's priced at 478,000, which, look, let's face it, for a guy of his caliber is an incredibly good price. Only averaged 45 last year, which means that, yeah, we should see an uptick in that, even if he hits 1 point per minute, which is usually what he averages at worst. We should be able to see a 55
He's
plus.
a machine with it, so...
Yeah, and also, Roosters' draw is worth looking at too, because they face the Dolphins in round 1. And, I won't ruin it yet, but there's a guy that I'll be captaining from the Roosters against the Dolphins in round 1. Then they've got the Warriors in round 2, and then they've got South in round 3 before they hit that bye up in round 4. So, they've got 3 good opportunities to make some inroads there. And let's hope he can cement that position and get maximum minutes.
And let's keep in mind that he's a Kiwi and won't be an issue through the Origin period, which, look, every time I've been in Supercoach, it's been, let's talk about Harry Grant, let's talk about Damien Cook, and they are the Origin. Look, even Appy's been playing Origin off the bench. You don't have to worry about it with Brandon Smith.
Yeah, that's right. Definitely a good point. One thing to mention would be that they signed Jake Turpin, the Roosters. He may job share. Depending on what's going on with Connor Watson, it might be interesting to see because, I don't know, does Brandon Smith have the motor to play 80 minutes initially? I'd
I don't know.
argue that he doesn't.
I think we're not going to see that Brandon Smith that slides into lock anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's the end of it. And Jake Turpin, like if we're looking at his haircut, I don't think he's a threat.
Yeah, good point. Haircut is very relevant in terms of Supercoach performance.
Is very relevant.
Yeah,
look, Grandma got the old bowl out and gave him a go over. Look, he's not going to make it in Sydney. Like maybe up here in Queensland. There was talks he was going to be the Broncos captain and the Broncos future, but with that haircut, he wasn't going to make it.
No good. Got to go the old one fade to get anywhere these days.
Definitely. Another guy that I want to talk about in the hooker position, it's been talked about all over. I would say he's going to be very well owned, but that's Reece Robson. I see him in your team too. Do you want to get started on Reece?
Yeah, it's funny. We have the same guys at hooker for good reason. Obviously, from Brandon Smith, he's going to be one of the most owned to start the season, I think. And Reece Robson will be pretty close behind him, I think. Like they priced him at 678,000 off a 64.5 average last year, which in itself is an incredible effort when you're comparing him to guys like Cook and Grant. But the one thing we need to take into consideration here, and I think the reason why he will be so popular, is that the Cowboys have the most juicy draw. Initially, let me run you through the first 8 teams that they play. They've got the Raiders in round 1. They've got the Broncos in round 2. Then they've got the Warriors, the Gold Coast Titans, the Bulldogs, the Dolphins, the Warriors again, and Newcastle Knights. So you can't even get close to that. I think the Storm have the second best schedule initially, and I still don't think it's even close. So that is incredible for a guy like Robson, who's very attacking focused. Has a lot of attacking points in him. I think he's definitely going to see some opportunities, and we're not really going to have to worry about the bye with Robson either until round 15. So that's definitely something to keep in mind as well. But
that's something I was.
You've got him in yours as well.
Yeah, that's why I was looking at Robson. Like, you can't go wrong with Grant or Cook, and I think every time anyone talks about Supercoach hookers, they're going to be talking about Grant or Hook. But when you can save $150,000 on Grant. This opportunity with Robson to lift. Grant he's probably not going to get over 80 of an average. He's averaging 77. He's 816K. Damien Cook, I don't think he's turned a corner or anything. I don't think he's over the hill, but he's not going to be better than 75. Reece Robson could be up there talking about, 75, 80 averages. He's a guy that you could captain on a good week. If you don't have guys like Val, if you don't have their 5'8", you're looking at Robson. He's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree with everything you've said there. I think the Cowboys are going to be popular in general. If you're not going with Robson, you're probably going to be looking at going with somebody else or going with a couple of other guys in that squad that I'm sure will pop up in our chat over the next few weeks in the lead up to the season. I think there's only 42 days left until the season kicks off.
So who's counting?
Yeah, I am. So it's definitely looking forward to the season to start. But yeah, very exciting with Robson. So I completely agree with that. I think, you said you don't know whether Cook's over the hill. I might argue that he has a pretty ordinary season this year. That's cool. You can put that one in the book.
Write
I think
it down.
He's turning 31 and I'm 31. So, if that's anything to go off, I'm feeling pretty ordinary myself. So hopefully,
Speak for yourself. I'm just peeking.
Father Time's starting to catch up. So, but we'll see. We'll see how we go. I can definitely agree that Grant will be the first, if not the second best hooker of the year. But I reckon Robson can match him this year. So we'll see how we go.
I don't want to delve too deep into hookers because, of course, we both went with the same hookers straight away.
Yeah.
But being a Tigers fan, what are you expecting from Appy, who, in my opinion, I know statistically speaking, he was 1 point under Robson. I'd consider him the third best hooker. What do you think's coming from Appy this year?
Yeah, I agree with you that he's probably the third best hooker. I think when you look at skill and when you look at actual football, and we're not considering Supercoach, he's definitely going to have one of the biggest impacts, I think, as a hooker to any team this year. Just from what he can create and from what he did at Penrith last year was incredible. And, his energy out of dummy half and the effort that he puts in on the defensive end as well is definitely doesn't go unnoticed. And the Tigers do need a little bit of curry around the middle. They need a little bit of kind of guts, a bit of grit in their game. And I think he can bring that. Supercoach-wise, I'll be keeping an eye on him. He's going to have to do a fair bit himself attacking-wise, and that could honestly happen. Considering Luke Brooks is probably going to be down on confidence initially, we might see Appy doing a little bit more from hooker. But can that last the whole season? Can he be someone that averages 75 to 80 Supercoach points a game? I'm not quite sure he can be. I still think that the guys we mentioned are probably going to pip him at the post there.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I could see him definitely finishing the season a top 5 hooker, which is a win if you've got him in your team. Like, you're not going to be disappointed with that. But I think at 666K, like Reece Robson has the potential to maybe get 80. Maybe I'm reaching too much. Maybe get 75. But I think Appy around that 60, around his 2022 average, with a few less weapons, he's going to have to do a lot more. Yeah, I think at that price, if he drops 100K, I think I'll be all over it. Like, he's definitely a better hooker than Jeremy Marshall-King or dare I say Reid Marnie. But yeah. Yeah,
that's a whole different conversation, I think. I mean, myself, I can see myself hopefully getting to a point where I can upgrade Cheese to Harry Grant. That would be ideal. If Robson has the year I think he's going to have, I'm more than happy to hold him all year. But it'll be interesting to see because, you can't go a whole season without having Grant in your team. You have to think about when you're going to get him in.
Yeah, but
so
I think that's going to be after Origin
right.
when Brandon Smith is such a juicy proposition.
Yeah, 100% agree. Mate, let's move on to front row forwards. We've got a couple of similar ones here.
Do you mind if I jump in, coming off the Reece Robson chat?
Yes.
Yeah, talking about that drawer, I've got Ruben Cotter.
Ooh,
623K. The drawer is something that we've covered, and it's also something I can't look past. He come back in price a bit at the end of the season because he was a bit banged up and injured. And, hopefully comes in with a good preseason and fires his way into some easier matchups. And, I think the Cowboys look really good. I have them in the top 4. I think Cotter's going to play Origin, which we will probably lose him a little bit. But I think at 620K, I think you're probably getting 700K value. Yeah,
I can. Yeah, I'm on board with that. He's a guy that I've kind of played around with a little bit, and I've put him in, and I've taken him out, and I've put him in, and I've taken him out, and it's at a point now where I am looking elsewhere. I'm probably looking to go relatively cheap, depending on how I go with other positions in front row forward. But I'll tell you what, you can't argue with Cotter. Like the problem with Cotter is that last year he obviously had that hamstring injury. And he was out for a few weeks there. And then when he came back, his last 6-round average was 50. So definitely at least 15 to 20 points under what he was doing consistently throughout the middle of the year when he was in form. The guy was playing 80 minutes through the middle. Like it was incredible. His points per minute were off the charts. So You can't argue with getting Cotter in your team if you've got the cash.
Well, that's one of the reasons I'm looking at him. Like, he is a guy that is 620K. I think you get the 700K average. He has come back. I think if you were paying, Joseph Tarpany price, he's somebody that I would wait until maybe he has a couple bad games and get him in my team. You're talking about some of those cheaper mid-tier guys. I think it's a bit of an awkward price, and there's a lot of value around that 480 to 490K. I'm presuming you have some of those guys in your team, Brano?
I do. It's a beautiful segue by you, Matty. Very nice. Mate, I've got a couple of those guys that you've just mentioned, and I know that you do as well. So we've got Daniel Saifidi is my first one, and honestly, he was one of my first picked when I found out that Clemmer was heading to the Tigers. With the departure of Clemmer out of that pack, this is going to open the door for Daniel or Jacob, probably both, to be honest, of those boys to step up. He's a state of origin quality player, packs a punch. His points per minute were way down as well, which is an interesting fact. So last season, his points per minute were 0.7, which is, for a guy that plays the way he plays, it's way down on his average in 2021 was 1.1. So even if he gets the same amount of minutes and finds that 2021 form again, I feel like he could easily be a guy that averages 55, 60 as a minimum. And at the moment, he's priced at 46. So there's definitely at least a 15-point upswing there, and a pretty high ceiling as well. What are your thoughts on Saifidi?
Yeah, look, I'm a big fan. He's one of those guys, those mid-tier guys that I'm toying with. Like, if I have the money, I would like a Ruben Cotter because it's going to be more points on the board. But Saifidi at 480K, Look, I don't think it's a stretch to see him at that Cotter money by the end of the year. Like, that's 140K uptick. I'm very focused on getting money early on in the season and then finishing strong with points. And, Saifidi's on the board. So
yeah, 100%. It's finding a really nice balance between making sure you get those guns in and those guys that that you can sit and rely on to get their 70 and their 80 or whatever it be. But you do have to have a cash focus initially. Otherwise, you are going to be chasing your tail later in the season when everybody's generated all this cash from getting the right cheapies. Because that's how you mold your team overall. So, definitely a few mid-range guys there that are looking pretty nice.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to win $1,000 in the first couple of weeks, but I think Saifidi, at that price you've got to be looking at. I'm 100%. Thinking pretty similarly with Tom Gilbert coming over from the Cowboys to the Dolphins.
Yep, I'm with you on that for sure.
I'm looking at a guy like that over a bloke like Lindsay Collins. I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to wait and see into the first 3 games of the season for Tom Gilbert, but I'm looking for him to build on his tremendous form, his breakout season. Hopefully he's starting at 13. There's another young fella that I'll be looking at to see if he can snag the 13 spot, but at the very least he'll be playing a lot of minutes with the Bromwich brothers not getting any younger. Playing in a worse team, so the workload's going to be up. Should get the opportunity, and I think he'll be up to the challenge. He'll be wanting to earn that contract. There'll be a lot of Dolphins fans out there. I think, Tom being from Queensland will be looking to prove himself.
100%. I think when we look at Tom Gilbert's minutes, the guy's got a big motor. So, in the last 7 games of the season last year, he got a bit more of a crack. He got some more minutes. He played 70-plus minutes in the last 7 games of last season for North Queensland, and he averaged 60. So you're looking at a point per minute of probably 0.9, which is pretty solid for a guy that's going to play big minutes and has the capability to play big minutes. And we all know now that a lot of coaches are steering towards that ball-playing lock, that mobility lock now. You're not just looking for a big bloke to take hit-ups now. You're looking for someone who can move the ball around, someone who can play as that second playmaker. So I definitely think Tom Gilbert's got that in him. Moves quite well for a big fella.
Yeah, and I also think there's a lot of value around those second-row forwards at that price, but I don't actually think there's that much value in front row forwards, so that duel's really handy.
Yeah, I think it's quite stinky up front this year. I think you can definitely
struggling.
You can definitely find some value there, I think, and it might be worth kind of jacking up some bigger guns in different positions, which I have done. I'm sure we'll get to soon.
Yeah.
Now, one thing to mention as well with Tom Gilbert, he is dual, front row, second row. So I think having that flexibility gives you a chance to be a little bit more manipulative and a bit more tactical with the way that you start as well. If you've got some duels floating around in front row, second row, you can be a bit more flexible with your trades. So definitely worth mentioning there.
No, I definitely agree there. I just want to tackle on another mid-tier bloke. Guys, we're talking about 450 to 500. Thomas Flegler.
Yes. One of your Broncos boys.
Yeah. Look, I've got to get a couple in. I've got to look at someone. I've got to be excited about something this year.
I like it.
I think he's coming off the bench. He's at 479K, which is a juicy price for a guy that is as talented as or as strong or has as big of a motor as Thomas Flegler. Look, at the start of the year, when you're looking at front row forwards, everybody was looking at Payne Haas. I think his mind's elsewhere at the moment. I think Thomas Flegler is going to be the man to step up. I think he's going to play a lot of minutes, and I think he's going to be very handy in a Broncos team I expect to make steps forward. Maybe I'm being super hopeful. You're a West Tigers fan. I'm sure you've had plenty of hope over the years. But yeah, I'm expecting Flegler at that 479K. Like when you look at blokes like Tohu Harris and Josh Papali'i in the 600s, I just think there's value at 480K for Thomas Flegler. So yeah, he slid his way into my team.
Nice. It's always nice to have someone to cheer on when you're going for your team as well, when you're watching a bit of footy. So I don't mind that pick.
Yeah. Look, I'll be dodging the halfbacks. I'll be dodging the 5'8". So yeah, let's look to the front row.
Love it. Now, whilst we go through this list, we are going to have, I guess, to preface this, these next few players, a few placeholders, a few guys that maybe have a fairly high ceiling, a few guys that maybe have plenty of potential, a few young fellas coming through that have been talked up by squads in the preseason and things like that. And these players definitely aren't locked in stone. They're kind of guys that we're hoping get named in certain positions, but just to preface the next few guys, I think it's worth keeping an open mind with the options that we have with cheaper players this year. You're not going to know who's going to be good and who's going to be available and starting and all that kind of stuff at that basement price until Teamless Tuesday. So, mate, who have you got as your backup, your bench front rowers?
I've got Jerome Momasia coming across to the Eels. Jewel, I love the Jewel in a cheapie. And yeah, look, I'll be waiting until Teamless Tuesday to see if he proper makes my team. I think that there's a shortage in front row forwards out there, especially in cheap front row forwards. But the media doesn't really focus on rookie front row forwards. I think we will get our 200K cheapies out there, and yeah, I'm hoping it's Jerome Momasia.
I like it. Remember the hype about Momasia last preseason? It was insane. Everybody was all over him. He was basement price. Everyone was tipping him to have a huge year. He was going to start at the Knights and he was going to do all these amazing things. And the poor bloke had the most unfortunate season ever. Had season-ending injury, and that was the end of him. And we didn't see him ever again. So hopefully he comes back with a vengeance this year.
When you're looking at cheapies, like praying and hoping, you're going to hope that you get a dual position cheapie that's hopefully starting, even come off the bench playing 35, 40 minutes. And yeah, I think there's plenty of talent there.
Speaking of coming off the bench, I've gone with probably two guys that will see some bench minutes more so than starting. It's very hard to find a good starting front row forward or second row forward that's going to be costing $200,000. But the two guys I've got are Jack Hetherington, dual position. We know the guy's got a bit of mongrel in him as well, and I just like watching the bloke. You never know what he's going to do. He's a bit unpredictable, but cheapie off the bench. He's got a big tank. He can play 80 minutes if he really needs to, or he can come on and play 30 or 40 with plenty of power, plenty of aggression. But yeah, the big thing for me is that he's a dual and he's near a basement price, and there's plenty of opportunity, I guess, there. So that's the first guy, and then the second guy I'm more high on is Franklin Pele from the Bulldogs. Now, not only have the Bulldogs talked this bloke up, but the Sharks had him and unfortunately let him go, and I think they're going to regret that. I think this is going to be a guy that we're going to be talking about for many years to come. He's at 216,000, which is, $16,000 more than basement. And I feel like he'll probably slot onto the Bulldogs bench maybe to start. I know there's a few guys that are trying to kind of fight for those last couple of bench positions. But this guy's got too much talent to leave him out too long. Otherwise, someone's going to snap him up pretty quickly, and there's a reason they signed him. Fun fact, in the New South Wales Cup last year, he scored 11 tries in 20 games. So this isn't just a guy that's just taking hit-ups. Like, this guy can hit a hole, and he's carrying 2 or 3 blokes. Like, I was watching his highlights on YouTube. This guy's insane. Just carrying blokes over the line, like kind of Taumalolo, Tavita Pangai Jr. style in the New South Wales Cup. So if he can, bring that into the NRL and develop through the NRL, this guy's going to be a handful.
And if you can say anything about Gus, he can pick one.
Absolutely. Got a pretty good track record, doesn't he, Gus?
Yeah. No, he's only 22. Playing front row forward. Yeah, you've got to at least be looking at him. If he gets selected, I think he'll be in my side as well. So,
beauty, mate. Second row.
Oh, second row. I know there's a couple guys that we've overlapped here. You want to get us started on Big Fafita?
Yeah. So, Dave Fafita, he's actually been in and out. I actually don't have him in at the minute.
Oh, saucy.
But I had him in probably up until maybe about 3 or 4 days ago.
Yep.
And I took him out as soon as Tanner Boyd was told to be on the right-hand side getting the number 7 jersey, which we'll talk about soon, linking up with Fafita on that right-hand side. Now, I'm not sure whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, because I was pretty excited about the fact that Fafita was going to be linking up with Kieran Foran on the left. So it looks like that's changed now, and Fafita's actually going to be on the right edge. So I'm a little bit unsure, and I wouldn't mind having a watch first, but let's face it, David Fafita can come out and get you 150 for the first 3 rounds and, gains a ton of cash, and he's nearly out of reach. Is that kind of player. You've got him in yours.
Yeah, well, I think we were having a chat off mic, of course, and everybody's talking about David Fafita as if he had a bad season last year, but he averaged 65.
Yeah.
And I think he's a guy that you can't look past. Like, at 689K, I really like blokes like Isaiah Yeo. Like, if you are looking at playing head-to-head and you want consistency every week, you're probably not picking David Fafita. But if you want a roughie that you can chuck a vice-captain on and there's a chance of him scoring 160 points, 120 points and a half, I don't think you can look past David Fafita. The Titans are going to be interesting this year. I don't have him making the 8 for starters, but I think, his best mate coming in, playing on his side, running off his best mate. They've given David Fafita the keys to the Gold Coast. They're playing his best mate. Look, let's get around it. You're not going to lose money on David Fafita at 689K.
No, I agree. And it's also, I think we need to keep in mind, it's a contract year for David Fafita. We all know that these guys love raising the standards a little bit when some cash is on the line. And I also think that with David Fafita losing his Queensland spot for the State of Origin last year, I think he's going to be pretty revved up to prove a few people wrong.
I'm kind of hoping he doesn't play Origin as a Supercoach fan.
Yeah, that would be ideal for us, but I don't know whether he'd want that. Maybe we'll flick him a message and just say, hey, mate, just tone it down a little bit in the lead up to Origin.
He sounds like a New Zealander, so I'll take it.
That's it. Mate, the guy that I replaced him with is my mate Cam Murray, and we've got a little soundbite for Cam Murray.
Bring it on.
Callum Murray. Why did they name you that?
Poor Cam Murray. It's, every time my wife hears Cameron Murray by the commentators on the TV, she calls him Callum Murray. So I thought that was a very fitting little soundbite for Cam Murray, because we're going to be talking about this bloke a lot, because let's face it, he's one of the best second rowers you can get in Supercoach. Mr. Ever Reliable, the guy that's always going to turn up and do 50 tackles. He's going to take 15 runs. He's going to average you 70 plus. And he's one of those guys you can lock in your side and you don't even have to think twice. You can just leave him there for the season. And I know that obviously Origin is a factor, but I think regardless of that fact, we are going to have some players not play through Origin, and you can't just start the season with no Origin players. You need to pick the ones that you think are going to be the most consistent and the ones that are going to deliver and get you the most points in the lead up, and then post Origin as well. And, we've only got a certain amount of trades. You can't just go and trade out everybody. So he's one of the guys that I'm more than happy to run with from day one and just leave him there.
So at 750K, and an excellent segue into the gentleman that I want to talk about, why would you choose Cameron Murray over a bloke like, say, Angus Crichton?
bit tricky, isn't it? I mean, when we looked at Angus Crichton's season last year, he started incredibly slow. And I'm not quite sure what that was. They changed him from the right side to the left, and they kept swapping him. He probably struggled to get a little bit of routine and a little bit of kind of consistency in his game. And then obviously a couple of injuries here and there as well. So he did start slow last season, and I think, yes, Cameron Murray's, a little bit injury prone, and there's a risk there that he can go down. But I think he's one of those guys. I definitely feel like there's more consistency in points when I'm talking about Murray in comparison to Crichton, who can go low. Let's face it. He can definitely find himself a 30 and find himself not involved on that edge, or he can find himself getting 100 and hitting, getting 2 tries and hitting 2 lines and done. So I just feel a little bit safer taking Cam as opposed to Angus.
Yeah, no, and I respect that opinion. I'm going to be looking at Crichton because sometimes it's not what you spend, it's what you save.
Mm-hmm.
And he's 50 grand cheaper, coming off a 66 average after having an ordinary season. I think we're getting a little bit of a discount. I think you're getting a bloke like Cameron Murray, or looking at the end of the season, you're going to have the same amount of points as Cameron Murray. And you're going to save yourself 50K, but that's why we play the game. And why we're picking someone from a different side of town.
That's it. Mate, the next 2 guys I'm going to kind of pair together because it's more, we're talking mid-range again, 430 to 440K.
Yep.
The first one is Jack Murchie. So he looks pretty set at 432,000 to take that right edge role from Isaiah Papali'i, who's now at the Tigers. He's an 80-minute second rower. Edge second rower. He's looked best on ground with the Warriors last year. If you watch any Warriors game last year, you see Jack Murchie in the thick of it.
I tried to avoid it, to be honest.
It was, well, when you did turn it on for the 5 minutes to see what the score was and how much they were getting beaten by, he was best on ground by far. The guy was putting in effort no matter what the score was. So I'm a big fan of him. And I also think that connecting with Mitch Moses on that right edge could be pretty exciting. Could be a guy that could, score a couple of meat pies early on and find himself up 100 grand or whatever it be. And at 430, I can see him being a fringe 600,000 player if he kind of takes on that IPAP role. And I think the one thing, the fun fact that we need to mention here is that when Isaiah Papali'i went from the Warriors to Parramatta, he came to Parramatta at a very, very similar price that Jack Murchie's on right now at around that 450,000. So can he be the Isaiah Papali'i that he was at Parramatta? I'd argue that he probably could get close.
Excellent. And I think rather than looking at, like, you have cash cows to generate cash, right?
Yep.
Imagine if you can get on someone like Jack Murchie at 430K, generates cash, but he can also be in your top 17 every week and, generate you those points.
Yeah, stop it. Lock me in. Mate, if he starts in the 12 or the 11, mate, I'm all over him.
I'm actually pressing the trade out button. I want him in.
Okay, get him in. I love it. We can write it together because it'll be the only reason I watch Parramatta games this year. That's for sure. The second guy I'm on. Sorry, go.
Have they locked in Mitch Moses yet?
I don't know. I'm not quite sure.
So they've got Brownie in. I've heard rumours that he's re-signing, but look, you want him coming off Moses.
Yeah, you do. Absolutely. Mate, the other guy that will be coming off Luai is Luke Garner on the left edge. So he obviously will take that, or he should take that left edge position from Kikau now that Kikau's over at the Bulldogs. Garner, he had a really good season, I think. He only averaged 41. And when I looked at that, I was like, hang on a second, that doesn't seem right, averaging 41. But he did have a few low games and a few games he didn't get involved with the Tigers. But look, can you blame him? The poor bloke was getting barely any good ball. Unfortunately, when you're on that side, you're not really going to get a ton of opportunity. But when he did, he's a great hole runner. He's a guy that close to the line you want to get the ball to. And let's face it, I think Jerome Luai is a little bit better of a prospect than Luke Brooks. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I would agree with that statement.
But I reckon he could comfortably average around that 55 to 60. We're not expecting him to be Viliami Kikau. It's not going to happen. The guy just doesn't have the size or the strength. But he does run a good line. He's got a good work rate as well. And again, at that price, at that kind of low 40 average that I think could easily work his way up into the mid-5s.
Yeah, he's a bloke that I looked at, and, I think coming to the Panthers is definitely a better opportunity than running off Luke Brooks. I think he's a little bit of an awkward price, and I do expect him to rise. But the fact that I just know that he's not Viliama Kikau, I'll be looking elsewhere. And I think I'll be looking to the Knights. I'll be looking at Adam Elliott.
Yeah, I like it. I've actually had him in my team up until I popped Jack Murchie in. So, I like it. Why are you going with Elliott?
Look, I think the opportunity is going to be there with the Knights. How can I say this without sounding like a dick? I, statistically speaking, don't look towards the Knights for a Supercoach player very often. But I do think I'd love to watch him playing for the Raiders. He's going to a worse team. He's going to be looking to prove himself. He's going to be wanting to prove that he's worth the big contract. And look, 560K does sound like almost premium price. But with the price rises, we're looking at a 500K player that I think just has an excellent ceiling. Like when you look at players, in and around that 600K, like would you rather take a risk on Adam Elliott, or would you look to an old head like Tyson Frizzell in that team? You can actually save money over having Adam Elliott instead of an old head like Jack de Belin. Like, I just want Adam Elliott in my team. I think he could be a bloke that's worth 650. I think that I can comfortably put him in my 17 every week. You could have comfortably put him in your 17 every week playing for the Raiders. I just want him in my team.
I like it. I wish there's somebody. I wish there was somebody that I could disagree with you on at the moment. And there probably will be soon, but I can't disagree with Elliott because we saw what he did at the Raiders. With the old boost for Elliott was trending for about a month. Because he just went on a tear. He just averaged about 70 or 80 for a few weeks there through the middle of the season. And, the guy's just hammer and tong. He's incredible. So I'm a big fan. Mate, we've got three cheapies, I guess, to round out the two RFs. I can't imagine anybody running with four more expensive mid-rangers / guns. You're probably looking for value for money here on the bench. And I've gone with Jermaine Hopgood from Parramatta, who's come across from Penrith. He only had 4 games last season. He averaged 53.5 when he got more than 40 minutes last year. So, Gutho's already come out and earmarked him, I guess, for a breakthrough season. There's plenty of quotes around how good he's been and how great he's been at training. He's definitely impressing. And he actually led offloads in the New South Wales Cup last year, 46, which was 6 more than any player in the competition. So the guy loves an offload, and we know that anybody that can offload successfully in the NRL, especially in Supercoach world, they're almost a must-have. What are your thoughts on Hopgood?
Yeah, I like him. Looks like Tavita Light out there. He had played 4 games last year. He's hard to look at. I have elected to save a little bit more money, looking to spend that early 200s rather than late 200s and hope that something sticks. But Jermaine Hopgood looks like a good prospect, and you'd be mad not to at least look at him.
Mate, the other guy I've got, before we talk about the one that we've both got and probably 95% of super coaches will have in round 1, I've got Sean Blore. This guy's had huge raps on him for about 3 years at the Tigers. Everyone thought he would start last season before he got injured, did his ACL and missed the season. I think he should start on the bench at worst. Now, that there is a world where I feel like he could even find a starting edge role. Considering how much they love this bloke, depending on obviously what they do with John Bateman. So, if John Bateman ends up starting 13, playing lock, it opens up an edge role there, which honestly he's good enough to fill. So, mate, if he starts, he'll be in everybody's team. There's no doubt. Even if he's got a bench position, that's more than enough for me from what I know about this guy and from what I've seen to give him a run. And it might be a slow burn off the bench, but I'm more than happy to hold a guy like that for half a season or more if it makes me some cash.
Excellent. And he's not going to be in your 17. He's just a bloke that you've got on the bench. You're hoping to make 150K and then just move on from. So,
100%. And the other guy that I'll mention is Josh Schuster. We don't even need to talk about him too much because I'm pretty sure that if you type in Supercoach podcast on any platform, he's being spoken about. So
if he's not 80% owned,
just a fact.
If he's not the second most owned in the comp at the start of the season, I'll eat my hat. So
Yeah, 100%, mate. The guy's playing 80 minutes, could take 5'8" this year, averaged 60.9 in 2021 when he played 80 minutes.
Yeah, he's off the other issues last year.
That's all we need to know.
At 240k, like we're talking about Sean Law or Josh Schuster.
Yep, 100%. If you have to choose one, you know who you're going with.
Yeah,
easy free up cash. So that's
exactly.
That's me in the second row. Who are you looking at for cheapies?
Look, I've added Ray Stone. I like the fact that he's a dual, even though I've sort of backed myself into a corner with Robson and Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Look, there is a world where he jags a starting lock roll. But I think it's just a wait and see situation. It's just one of those situations where you're adding a cheapie that has a lot of opportunity, 40 days from the season starting. And there's going to be a lot of opportunity on the Dolphins. So I thought, well, let's add Stone. Let's see where he ends up. And, if he's playing 40 minutes at 240K, he's a guy that I want. And then I also, going towards that fantastic draw, I'm looking at, I'm going to butcher this, Jack Gaszewski. 246k. He did only play the 4 matches last year, but I think as a second row forward, you've got Tom Gilbert departing. I think he's a guy that you just need to look at. In the second row forwards, you're going to want 3 cheapies. You're going to want 3 guys below 300k so that you can load up at other positions. You're going to have your 3 starters. I think he's just a guy that we all need to be looking at. And, he's sitting there right now on my bench.
Love it. Gaszewski was incredibly Supercoach relevant at one point a couple of years ago. He came in at basement price and everyone was super excited. And he came in and I think he scored 80 or 90 in his first game. And everyone thought this guy's going to be, my ticket to making tons of cash and turning him into a keeper. And then he disappeared and Manly didn't play him for the rest of the season. And I thought,
the next Zach Hosking.
That's it. He's just gone.
He's taken Garner's spot. I don't know what you're talking about.
Mate, could happen. You just don't know. There's plenty of fight there for that left edge. So
I don't think it's going to happen. There's probably a reason he's played 4. He started in 4 games ever. So
yeah, that's right. Mate, halfback. Look, there's 2 players here that we can probably, easily just say, lock them in. And that's Nicho Hynes and Nathan Cleary, 2 best halves in the game, the golden halves. You can easily, there's an argument where you can just lock them both in and that'll do you for the season. You're sorted. But you've got 1.74 million in 2 players. There's definitely some merit to go elsewhere or to tinker with that and play around with it and just keep 1 and use the cash elsewhere. What are your thoughts on Hynes and Cleary?
Look, I actually think you're getting Cleary at a little bit of a discount after last year. He only played 14 matches. He averaged 80. Nicho Hynes was the best player in the game last year, and he's a bloke that I will definitely own at some stage during the year. But I think being able to afford your blokes like Cotter, being able to have a guy like Crichton instead of maybe a Ray Stone, maybe a Gaszewski, I think I can use that money elsewhere. And I think Tanner Boyd, passing to his best mate, getting a spot at the Titans, who, I think can hold a number 7 that's not as experienced. I want him in my team, and at 380k, you're saving 530k that you can spend elsewhere. I've got Tanner Boyd in my team.
Yep. He is the guy that I will remove one of these for. That's as simple as that. We've spoken about Boyd a little bit when we spoke about Fafita. It sounds like he's got the 7 wrapped up. Sounds like it's his to lose. Goal kicking, good high school mates with Fafita, so they should link up well. They should know each other's games relatively well. It's hard not to consider freeing up cash and using him because, like you said, that 500k, you can do some amazing things with that. I can get in a premium centre wing and I can go and upgrade my front row forwards or my second row and get a second rower in. And when you look at your team, and I was saying this on Twitter to a couple of guys now, when you look at your team and you take Hynes out and you use Boyd there and you go and change your team around, your team looks honestly so much better without him there. But Nicho Hynes is one of the guys that, you're going to regret not having at some point. You've got to get him in quick. So how long can you wait before you have to pull the trigger and get Hynes back in? And how much cash can Boyd make? in a short period of time, I think is the question. I'm very, very close to taking Hines out.
Yeah, look, and I agree with you. Looking back on last year, as a bloke that finished top 400, how many times last year did you VC whoever was playing before? Out of Nico and Cleary, how many times did you VC one and captain the other? I don't want to have $1.7 million at the halfback position. If Nico was playing fullback, he would 100% be in my team. They're the best two players in the comp at the moment, at least Supercoach-wise. I'm going to miss the fact that you can VC one and captain the other and be confident that you're going to finish in the top 5%.
Yeah, losing that duel's a killer. I think that's what made him so attractive last year, aside from those beautiful long locks in the wet. I genuinely think it is beautiful, isn't it? But unfortunately, like you're gonna have to obviously use your reserve at half if you got those two guys in, which is fine. But you definitely can't offset them like you could last year with vice captain, captain. So, I suppose if you weren't going to go with those two, but you still wanted someone premium, I'd probably put an argument together for Mitch Moses. He's about $150,000 cheaper, and he still averages 70. They've got a relatively tough draw to start, but they've also got the best schedule in the comp. So they've got a bye in round 14, Parramatta, and then they play all the major bye rounds through the State of Origin. So, that's an extra number through those 13, 16, and 19, I think it is this year. It's hard to argue against Mitch Moses. It could come up into a career year.
Look, looking at the top 10 halfbacks, I genuinely think you've got to go absolute premium or look at a cheaper option like Tanner Boyd. I'm not wanting anyone like Reynolds. I'm not wanting anyone like Hunt. I'm not wanting anyone like Cherry Evans. And look, you look to Jerome Hughes being a New Zealander over that origin period. But yeah, I think it's either Nico, Cleary, or you're just punching out somebody cheaper. And maybe we get another cheaper option throughout the year. But yeah, at $384K, he's going to get the opportunity.
Absolutely. Let me tell you this. Round 6, right? Let's keep this in mind. Mitch Moses from round 6. They have the Tigers. They have the Bulldogs. They have the Broncos, Newcastle, Gold Coast, Canberra, Souths.
I'm just
That's
hearing
a pretty
elite
nice
teams
run
in
leading
the
into
Tigers
State of
and the
Origin.
Broncos.
Yeah, they're not that great, mate. Don't worry. You've got Gold Coast and Newcastle in there. I wouldn't be calling them elite. But
I'm cancelling my season
there's an
pass
argument. there's an argument you could take him at round 6. You could go Boyd for 6 rounds and go Moses. There's merit in it.
If he generates
let's see how that plays
$150K,
out.
why wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Mate, 5'8". Who do you have in the 5'8"?
Oh, mate, I'm going to let you talk about Matty Burton. You've talked me into it.
Mate, I love Matty Burton. I have talked you into it, haven't I? He's at 594,000, priced at a 55 average. I'm going to go out and say, you can take this to the bank, hot take, that he's going to be top 5 scorer this year in Supercoach. They've got a strong pack. You look at the Bulldogs, they're definitely well improved from last season. Their roster's way well improved. You see, obviously, he's getting his hands on the ball in most possessions, basically. He averaged 41 last year up to round 8, and then he averaged 64 for the rest of the season. And let's add in that he's got Kikau on his side now, and I'm sure that he's going to be using him. Just that impact that Kikau has on the left edge to drag defenders in is probably, and let's hope, is going to create some overlaps for Fox on the left wing, and giving Matty Burton plenty of involvement, plenty of try assists and opportunities himself. I'm a big fan. He's probably my most locked-in player. He's not coming out of my team.
Do you think you could look at Matt Burton like a Nico Hines last year? Like we weren't 100% sure what we were getting. You're getting him at a little bit of a discount. He's got a new team around him. He's got Kikau running off him. Do you see him getting into a position where he could maybe be the top player? Maybe the second best player?
Well, I mean, look, he goal kicks.
He does goal kick.
If he kicks goals and Bulldogs are scoring tries, which they weren't doing, let's keep in mind for the first 8 rounds, which is why he averaged next to nothing. There's a good chance he could be the top scoring player. And look, yeah, that's a massive take. When we're talking about Hines, Cleary, Tedesco, these guys are, Supercoach giants, but Matt Burton can keep up. I reckon he can keep up.
So you don't have a Matt Burton in your team as a stepping stone into a Cameron Munster or a Dylan Brown. He's locked in. He's the guy you want.
Yep. I'm going to go ahead and say that I would take him, even if we got to a point where Munster and Dill Brown were averaging the same or priced around the same, I'd keep Burton.
Excellent.
And the second one for me, the cheapie, at 5'8", he's got himself into a bit of dramas. Jaden Sullivan. Unfortunately, there must be something in the water over at the Dragons. You got old mate Talatau Amon, who's in a little bit of Johnny dramas over there. Getting into a bit of trouble, into a bit of mischief. Yeah, I don't think we're going to see him this year based on that. But anyway, you don't want to speculate. We'll see what happens. But
it's outside of my pay grade.
Jaden Sullivan was, yeah, absolutely. Jaden Sullivan, he's the guy that was obviously earmarked to take that spot, and unfortunately, he's gone and done his hammy. He's grade 2 hammy, I think, NRL physio said, so which is usually about 4 to 6 weeks as a minimum. So he's going to be touch and go for the start of the season now. I've got him in here and I haven't thought about who I'm going to replace him with yet. And obviously I'll just keep him there until we see what Team List Tuesday looks like, because that's probably a price that I'll be working around. But if he gets some minutes, he could easily average 40 as a starting 5'8". And I don't mind that.
Yeah, no, and he's a guy that you've got coming off the bench. He's a guy that you have there to generate cash. I'm not sure who else you go, whether you have to make a step up to 450k to 550k to get a guy that's playable. Maybe looking at a Hastings, maybe looking at a Keary, maybe looking at a Foreign. They're not exciting prospects, but they're guys that are going to get you 40 to 55. Otherwise, you go real cheap and, you hope Cody Nikorima talks himself into being a good football player, or there's an injury at the Broncos for Jock Madden. Unless you're going two premiums, I don't think there's much else you can look towards. Matt Burton covers 600k. I was actually looking towards Adam Dewey until I realised that he's probably playing in the centres, which scares me.
Yeah, I was pretty excited about Dewey this year until I found out that they were doing a bit of a switcheroo at training. And look, it's the 19th of January.
It's training.
A lot can
We're not
change
even
in the
talking
next,
about preseason yet.
No, exactly. So we'll wait until we see some games and see how they line up there. But yeah, Dewey, I know there's a few people that are pretty high on Dewey this year, and that look for good reason. But at the moment, I just don't trust that Tigers outfit to gel straight away. It's going to take them some games. It's going to take them some time, probably a few rounds to really gel and understand their systems and things like that. So I'm probably just going to wait and see a lot of the Tigers guys initially. But the one guy I'm not going to wait and see on is Charlie Staines. He's my first centre wing picked. 378,000, 36 average last year, clearly because he didn't really get an opportunity at Penrith there. Now, the rumour is that Staines has actually got fullback and getting fullback reps with the first team. And they've got Dane Laurie training at 6, which is why obviously Dewey's in the centres, which is, honestly, I don't know whether that lines up. I don't know whether that's going to happen. But look, Staines as a winger stinks. He sucks. I don't like him as a winger at all.
But he does have that pedigree of
coming
from a Panthers outfit and coming to the Tigers. He's not that old. He's not experienced, but they're looking at something where Charlie Staines could be at the fullback, and I think any fullback, I want him in my centre wing if he's due.
Yep, absolutely. If Staines is named at fullback in round 1, he's locked in. Easy decision for me.
I'm with you. And with something similar to that, I am looking at Perham from the Doggies.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, Gus loves him. Look, it's a bit of a smoky because we're actually not sure what's happening at the Bulldogs. But as with Charlie, any guy that's going to be playing centre that can slot into centre wing and is going to be playing fullback, you want him in your team.
Yep. Yeah, I think they both sit in the same mould, Staines and Perham. So,
and they're the same price.
Good shout. Yep. Now, I've got the cheap Brian To'o named in my team. I've got Isaac Thompson. Bit of a base stat beast. He's priced at about 50% of his value based on what he showed us last year in very limited opportunity. But we know that this guy just tackle bust for fun. takes hit-ups, offloads, all those attacking stats. His base and power is through the roof. He scored 20 tries last year in New South Wales Cup, 75 tackle busts, 13 offloads in 16 games.
Do you think he's going to take Tane Mills' position?
I don't. So this is the toss-up, and obviously if he gets named, great. But, based on what I saw last year from Tane Mills, do they really believe that he's the guy that's going to take them in that position over the next 5 years? I'd argue that they don't, considering he was in and out of the team for such a great amount of time last year.
Yeah, well, he's in and out of the team because he was getting sent off like twice in one game. But he did score a lot of tries.
Loves a card, doesn't he, old mate? Yeah, he did.
Loves the send-off.
He can finish. And, I mean, he showed that in the New South Wales Cup. The guy's a try scorer, and he's a tackle buster, and he's an offloader. And those are the kind of guys that you froth over in Supercoach land. So,
look, for the Bunnies, I would nearly be... We're going to wait till Team List Tuesday, but whoever gets that position, even Tane Mills at Milne at 450k, there's a lot of value to be looking at in that spot for the Bunnies.
Yeah, absolutely. Mate, Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow, the hammer. This is one of those conversations that I can't open Twitter without seeing something about his role or what people think he's going to do. And I think Tessie New has signing at the Dolphins has absolutely thrown the biggest spanner in the works possible.
Yeah, well, you know what I think about Tessie New.
I do know, yeah, considering you had a few painful Broncos games last year that you had to put up with him.
Yeah, look, I wish Hammer was playing fullback, but I don't see it happening. I don't think they would have signed Tessie New if they had planned it, played the hammer at fullback. I think at 330k, he's going to be a serviceable centre wing. He's going to be a guy that runs a little bit all over the field and, beats that 30 average. He's in my team. I wish he was playing fullback. He would be an absolute lock if he was playing fullback, but I think it's going to be a bit of a wait-and-see situation. Maybe they're going to start seeing the performances that Tessie New puts in. Do
you think it's a matter of time before it gets to a point where they decide, okay, Tessie New isn't the guy that we want at fullback, and they move Hammer back?
Mate, Hammer was playing Origin. Tessie New was playing reserve grade.
Pretty good summary.
I don't know what... yeah, exactly. Let's just stop it there. Let's call Uncle Wayne and ask him what he wants to do. So...
Yes, that's it. That's about as much as you're going to know about that situation. But we'll monitor it pretty closely because if he's fullback, he's definitely a good proposition. Fun fact, he actually averaged more at centre wing than he did in the fullback position last season. 47 versus 51. And there's not a big gap there, but he still scored okay. You just don't want 47 in your team, do you?
Yeah, look, he's not going to have that bench role this year. He is going to be a cash cow that I would be confident putting in my team. And playing him in my 17 at 330k, I think he's going to be, in the 70% owned.
Yeah, nice. Mate, I'm going to run through the last 4 centre wings because it's a lottery. But the first one isn't. Chance Nickel-Klokstad. I actually like him in New Zealand. He's back home in his own environment. Had a great year. Ended the year quite emotionally with the Raiders. It shows he actually gives a shit about footy and gives a shit about the people he plays with. He only played 11 games last year, unfortunately, but due to that, he's severely underpriced at 327. Back in 2020, he averaged 54. So even if he goes back to that average, that's a 20-point uptick. So I'm more than happy to take a 20-point uptick for a guy that's going to be sitting on my bench most likely or be my last centre wing play. So I'm big on C&K. Second guy is Hayes Dunster. He's actually tipped to pair up with Penasini in the centres at Parramatta. So he scored 17 tries in the New South Wales Cup last year. Good kick returner, eats up base and power stats. The last 3 rounds of last season against North Queensland, Melbourne and Penrith, he finished with 52, 82 and 36, which is pretty solid. So the guy's shown us that he can score at NRL level and that he can score well in Supercoach as well. So I'm big on Hayes Dunster. And then the last 2 guys are Jack Howarth, who I think we all love as a dual 2RF centre wing. If he finds his way into the 17, he's a pretty easy lock at absolute basement price, 200,000. Bit of a utility, does a bit of everything. So he'll definitely find some minutes this year, especially with the players that they've lost at Melbourne. And the last guy is Cam Pereira from the Titans. He's obviously, again, at 200,000, but he's been earmarked as the fastest man on the Titans roster. And there's some quick guys over there. So he's actually tipped to get the wing position this year. He scored 25 tries in 19 matches in the Queensland Cup. The guy can finish in the corner, and I'm a big fan. And if he gets a start, then I'm all over it. So, any of those guys are in your team as well?
No. I've got Tyrell Sloan from the Dragons playing. I think he's a chance to play in fullback because I just love fullbacks that can play centre wing. Yep. And he's only 298k. I was disappointed in him last year. I started last year with him, but they signed him in 2021. They signed him to a 3-year contract. Look, I think he'll get opportunity. I've tipped the Dragons to come last. If you can't find a cash cow in the team that you think's going to get last, I think you should give it away. I've got Valence Tueri. Look, I'm hoping he gets a centre position for the Dolphins. I think we're going to be looking at him. He was a try-scoring machine in Queensland Cup. I think, again, signing Tessie New has blown that out of the water for me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Tessie New is just ruining everything for you.
Tessie New's in the Broncos calendar too, just a heads up. He shouldn't be. Everyone knew he was leaving as soon as Walsh got signed.
That's nearly as good as when they used Josh Adokar for all the New South Wales promo material in the lead up to Origin last year. That's a beauty.
Can I tell you that the marketing team were better at picking a team than Freddie was that year? So
they were. It shows.
And I was playing around with the build, and as soon as I took Nico out of the team, I could afford Val Holmes. And at centre wing, being a goal kicker that has that draw that the Cowboys that we've been talking about all night, I'm excited about having Val Holmes. He's absolute premium. Like, you can get Brian Toto for $100,000 less. But I think Val can cover that. I think he can get 70 for at least the first, till Origin. And then I'll be looking to move on from him.
Yeah, you mentioned Brian Toto. A lot of people are starting with Brian Toto. I think the appeal there is that we know that Taylor May is missing the first 2 rounds due to that delayed suspension from 2017 or whenever he got suspended. They've delayed it that long. He got to play a number of games, grand final, all that kind of stuff. So he misses the first 2, which means that Brian Toto is likely to start on the left edge, on the left wing, which is his preferred side. And we know how good Brian Toto is on the right hand, but we know he starts well on the left. So you've got 2 rounds there to really assess whether he's going to keep the left or whether Taylor May's just going to come and slot back in. I think the one thing we need to think about as well is that left edge going to be as potent without kick out? And I think the answer is no. It's a flat no. So are they going to go down the left more, or did they go down the left so much last year where Toto didn't get any ball on the right because of kick out? So that's one thing to keep in mind. Are they going to go right more this year? Is Cleary going to go right more? Are they going to use Crichton more? I don't know whether that helps Toto or not anyway, because the bloke's got glue hands.
He does have glue hands.
But he did develop a bit of a passing game at the back half of last year. He got a couple of flicks out to Toto there at the back end of the season. So let's hope we can see more of that.
Look, I think the pedigree's there with Toto. I think playing behind Crichton hurts him. I think playing beside Targo is going to help him, but I think it's going to be good for 2 weeks, and then Taylor May's going to slot himself in, and yeah, you're going to get 600k's value out of Brian Toto, and you're going to pay 600k for him. So,
yeah, I agree with that. I'm not starting with him at this stage, but we'll see. When I take Nico out and I do another draft of one of probably 550 more drafts.
Yeah, and you add Talakai, and you're on a roll.
He's one of the guys that I will never add again. So I'm gonna say that at the start of the season, first podcast. Yeah, I'm going to throw it out there that I will never own Talakai again. But in saying that, fun fact: Wade Graham has come out today reckoning he thinks that Teague Wilton's going to have that left edge and he's going to find himself on the bench. So does that mean that not having the slow old Wade Graham next to him, Talakai might get some early ball again? Who knows? But I'm still not going with it.
Mate, I'm just dropping Holmes out, adding Talakai. Spending 100k on Hammer. It'll be right.
Yeah, see you in about 100,000, mate. Let's move on to the fullbacks, because I think we're kind of kind of on the same page. I know we've got different players, but I think you're probably looking more premium in the fullback position because it's one of those positions that does have such a big impact in the game. I've gone with Latrell and Tedesco, the two most expensive fullbacks aside from Pappenhausen. So, look, I feel like they're both healthy. They're both in good positions. Look at Latrell last year. The guy was a beast. Absolute tackle busting machine. I'm more than happy to spend big at fullback to get premium, reliable points. And I know that I'm going to get that from Latrell. I know he does go missing sometimes, but the Rabbitohs should be a pretty solid squad again. They should be scoring points, which means he's going to be kicking goals. So I'm happy to start the season with Trell. And obviously Teddy, in 2021, Teddy averaged 105 through the first 6 games. And in 2020, he averaged 106.5 in the first 6 games. So he just loves the start of a season. We always know he's going to turn up fit and he's going to turn up ready. And I felt like the Roosters started slow last year. They won't do that this year. They're going to come out red hot. I reckon they're going to give everyone a bit of a run for their money. So how are you feeling about fullback this year?
Look, I agree with you. I had Tedesco to start last year, and he was a staple in my team for the rest of the year. But at Tom Trbojevic at 577k, he's injured. This may not pan out, but how can you not have Tommy in your drafts at 577k? Like, he can play on one leg and be worth 577k.
Yeah, he's priced at 55. Like 55. Think about that. You know, this is a guy that's averaged 120 in a season. And do we see that again from him? I don't know.
We don't need to.
I'm unsure whether we can actually.
70.
That's right. But we also need to consider a couple of things. Now, there's a chance that Manly don't have him ready, or he doesn't feel like he's ready, and he doesn't start till round 3. Because Manly have the round 2 bye. So do they look at round 1 and they go, why are we risking Tom in the first, our best player in the first round, when we've got to rest round 2? Do we bring him back round 3 and let him get into his work? And I reckon there's a chance that they actually do that, or they might start him at centre. Kind of wouldn't make sense if they started him at centre. I think I'm starting to side towards the fact they might not even start him till round 3. And if that's the case, you're not going with him.
Yeah, you're saving a trade for 2 weeks. I think you're going to have enough confidence in your team listening to these podcasts that you're okay with sitting Tom on the bench and not playing him. Do you think putting it into perspective, not having Tom Trbojevic in your team, that Tessie New is 20k more expensive?
Yeah.
He's got the battery.
They need to reevaluate that, don't they? I might put my hand up to do some of the Supercoach pricing, I think.
Lachlan Miller is 20k more expensive than Tom Trbojevic.
Yeah,
Nick Meaney is 80k more
probably
expensive.
Will when you do the team summaries.
Brinson is 100k more expensive. Tom Trbojevic is still Tom Trbojevic. He could play on one leg, 577k. If he drops 20k, he's going to rise 200k. I think he's a lock. Even if he doesn't play till round 3, you're going to have a serviceable fullback. You're going to be playing a centre. You might get more points anyway.
So instead of going Tommy Turbo, you pick up whoever else it is that gets you a good solid amount of points in the first couple of rounds. You also get 3 looks at Turbo up to round 5. So do you not start with someone else, see how you go? You might pick up someone, and this is kind of the reason why I'm going Latrell and Tedesco. How many extra points can I get in those first 2 weeks if Tommy doesn't play? And then obviously, if it doesn't work out, I can bail out to Tommy Turbo. You know, and that's a pretty easy bailout, and I'm saving 300-400k to then upgrade elsewhere. And I know I'm burning a trade, but you do have that option to actually free up a shitload of cash by not going with Turbo early and then dropping back to him if you needed to around 5 if he takes off.
Yeah, but you're talking about 300k. Like, you've already spent that money in your front row forwards. Like, you have a guy like Angus Crichton instead of Ray Stone. You have a guy like you already have a guy like Reece Robson instead of playing Mitch Kenny. Like, you've already spent that money. You're already going to get the benefit of that money. If Tommy Turbo doesn't work out, you can cash out a guy like that and step up to Latrell Mitchell as well. You can do exactly the same thing in 3 weeks. Latrell's not going to change price in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, fair shout.
I'm saving that money early. I'm going to spend it elsewhere. I'm going to make sure I have Cleary. I'm going to make sure I have Robson. I'm going to make sure I have Cotter because I love their schedule. If anyone, I'm sitting there on Val Holmes, but I want him in my schedule early. I want him in my team early, and then I want to move him on after that. you can save that money there. You can move your Val Holmes down to, your Hammers later on and spend the money later on. But getting Tommy in my team at 577K, I'm not looking past him. If you were talking to yourself halfway through last year and I said you could have Tommy at 577K, he might be a bit banged up. He's in America getting fixed up. You'd still put him in your team.
I did. So he wasn't 577. I think he was like 800 or 969. I think he was, and I picked him up as soon as he came back. He did burnt me big time because he came back. He had a couple of shit games and was out for the season, and I burned a couple of trades that I probably actually needed at the back end of the season last year. So I am a little bit burnt by Turbo, but I do agree with you. If he's starting round one, if they're using him round one, and they're saying that he's fit and he's looking good in the trials and all that kind of stuff, he plays some trials. It's hard not to go with him. I'll probably find some. I'll probably downgrade him. I'll probably downgrade Latrell to Turbo and start with him.
So you'd go Tedesco over Latrell?
Yes. Yeah, 100%. I feel like Teddy's, proven. I feel like Latrell obviously can. We've seen what he did last year, but I think there is still some inconsistencies in his game. So and more of a chance of injury. I think Teddy's one of the more reliable. One of the more reliable fullbacks that isn't going to get injured. So I'm more than happy to go with him.
I agree. I rate the Bunnies. I think he's going to be kicking a lot of goals. I think they're going to be scoring a lot of tries. But this is the first year I haven't started with Tedesco in a couple of years, and it does make me a little bit nervous.
Yeah, you're going to have to watch Roosters games with one eye closed, I think. What about you at fullback, mate? Who's the other
I've got one left. I've got Brisbane's saviour, Reece Walsh. 555K.
Yep.
People forget that Brisbane were third last year. They've lost Tessie, they've lost Tamari, they've lost Turpin. Nothing I consider a big loss. They will look to insert Reece straight away. He wants to be in Brisbane. He has better players around him. He should be fun to watch. He's 550K. I don't think that he's a Pappy. I don't think that he's a Latrell, and I don't think that he's a Tedesco. But I think that he's a guy that's worth $700,000. I expect the Broncos to be better. I like a guy to watch, but I think at 550K, the Broncos are a lot better than the Warriors. I want him in my team. You can spend that money elsewhere. Again, we're talking about 250K. You're having Val Holmes instead of your normal centre. You're having Val Holmes instead of Daniel Tupou. You're having him instead of David Nofaluma. You're spending that money elsewhere. You've got Reece Walsh. I think he's going to score a lot of points.
Can't argue. I took Reece Walsh through the middle of the year last year. It was a bit of a punt, bit of a pod option. He did okay. I think he averaged about 55 to 60 through that period. A little bit short of what I would want to get from him, but I can definitely see the reasoning behind why you take him. So
yeah, look, he averaged 52. He averages what Will Kennedy did last year playing for a worse team. He's going to have a lot more weapons off him. Yeah, I can see him being a guy that generates cash. Maybe a stepping stone to your Latrells. Latrell gets a low score in him. He drops a little bit of cash. Reece Walsh rises a little bit of cash. I'd be happy to step up into Latrell, but I'm gonna cop that hit at the start of the year.
Fair shout, mate. That pretty much wraps up our team picker teams for now. I know we've still got 42 days left, and I'm sure these teams are going to change a lot. So we might do a bit of a reveal when we get a little bit closer to Team List Tuesday. We might have a look and see, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things changing over that time. But mate, thanks for hopping on with me. It's always good to chat Supercoach. I'm sure we're going to be chatting plenty more Supercoach to come. We're going to be doing some team summaries, I guess, some team reviews of each team as we go. So keep an eye out for those.
Yeah, that'll be a shorter podcast. It'll be more like 15, 20 minutes. And
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we'll get involved.
Easy, mate. 100%. Mate, where can, before we wrap up, where can people reach you? Where do you produce most of your content?
Yeah, you can reach me on Twitter at SC_Mattrix. And where can we find you, Bruno?
Mate, I'm on Twitter also, on Facebook and Instagram as well, but mostly Twitter. So you find me at Brain_FS, Supercoach Brain. You can search and you'll find me. Always happy to chat Supercoach, chat sport in general. Big sports enough, as as is Matty. So, mate, thanks for hopping on with me today. It's been good fun. Look forward to chatting through some teams and moving forward into some more pods.
Thanks, man. Looking forward to it.
And don't forget to like and subscribe, guys, if you like what we're chatting about and want to follow along. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, mate. See ya.